Panel. 25 years reunion, is this right? And on the esteemed panel, we of course have Mullen and James Lorinz and
A little bit louder with that love. And Art's here again.
and I'm here again.
And Art, you have the
Sure.
first question started off.
Sure. So Frank, you had gone to see Mr. Glickenhaus about a movie you had written called Insect City.
Right.
And you're having this meeting,
Right.
and you're trying to get this movie off the ground, and what happens next?
Well, he said he loved the script, and there's no way in hell he would ever sink a dime into it, because no one would ever go. Okay, but, so that ended that, and I thought, well, you know, I'm in a room across a desk with a guy who wants to fund a film for me. So, fortunately, he said, what else do you have? And I didn't have anything else. So I started making up the plot of Frankenhooker on the spot. And, I had no idea what I was saying. But every time I was saying stuff, Jim was laughing and laughing. I think he knew I was making it up. But he kept laughing and laughing and laughing. So I kept adding more and more. And I think I came up with about maybe halfway through the story. And he goes, oh, I love it. Love it? I don't even remember what I just said. And then he says, what do you want to call it? Your brain works very fast. And I'm going, Franken prostitute, no. Franken slut, no. Franken whore, no. Frankenhooker. And he goes, oh, let's do it. And that was that. And, literally 2 weeks later, we got the contract. I mean, it was that simple. Of course, making the film was fucking hell, but it was that simple getting the funding for it.
Had you seen James in Street Trash before you were casting the movie?
Oh, that's why I based it on. Look, no director, every director is only good as his cast. And this film would be nothing without these two, period. If I didn't have James ad-libbing his way through that movie and Patty as the monster, I wouldn't have a film. I don't care how clever I could be, and I don't care about the writing. It just wouldn't work. So, I'm the least responsible for the success of the film. And in fact, the talking box is what sold it all. I had nothing to do with that either. But it's these two that made the movie. I may have been behind the camera, but they made the movie.
Now, is it true that there was a problem with the rating for this when it was first
Oh,
released?
it's ridiculous, yeah. I've had a problem with the ratings board all along, which is why if I make a G-rated film, I'm not going to go to it. Fuck them all.
It's not going to be a movie from you, but G-rated.
Well, the last one I made, the last one, I deliberately put it nudity so we'd get it on. They're just, the MPAA is a corrupt organization that is paid for by the major studios. They're not out to really keep 17-year-olds pure. They're out to control competition. All right? The same film, if Paramount had picked up Frankenhooker, which, imagine that, but it would have gotten an easy R. We're an independent. So they not only hated the film, but it actually got even nasty. I don't know if it was Richard Hefner himself or his secretary, but they called up Shapiro Glickenhaus and they said to their secretary, congratulations, you have the first film on the case. That's not their job. Their job is not to be a fucking movie, okay? And Jim Glickenhaus went public with that. And I was like, he took great delight. I mean, it was all over the place. They were all over, you know, and that's that. That's what happened. They really cut it. And it's ludicrous. They made, you know, half of the scenes where James is examining the girls. I mean, you see, it's R-rated kids. It's in every movie. We had to cut ours. We're on. I mean, no sex. It's nudity, and they're, you know, so, you know, we were very proud to put it out. Do I sound big?
A question for Patty. So you were modeling at the time, and you had great success with that, of course. And you've done one other movie, and now you are being asked to don this crazy wig and put on makeup and act super goofy. And how was that experience for you?
Oh, I couldn't wait to get started. I remember the very first day I met you, Frank. Remember that? You were behind stacks and stacks of pictures of all these people. Look what these people sent me. Remember? Do you remember you?
But I probably had a bag of White Castle burgers on the desk.
There was everything else. Everything was there, and you seemed to me that you were at a point in the time, getting down. You were getting close.
Worse than that, it was like everybody wanted to cast and obvious, you know. And I wanted an innocent woman. I wanted the girl next door, and they didn't understand that. They didn't think, oh, that's not going to be. And I remember when I said you're it. I remember the casting woman said, "Really?" And you know, what's wrong with you people? And when I told Jim about it, he goes, "Are you sure about that?" And I went, "Listen, Patty was penthouse pet of the year." He goes, "Oh, that's great." so that was that.
She'll be fine.
And the only direction I ever gave Patty was walk like Boris Karloff, which she did.
And the face.
Yeah, the face. Okay.
Yes, and I just remember it always out of the corner of my eye. You were right there every step of the way. You were my shadow. Just look over and.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And obviously, James, you're a comedic genius. How much freedom were you given on the set of Frankenhooker?
Well, non sequiturs and doing things, but you got to pick the right ones, and you got to make sure that it's going to work with your, vision as well. So, I think we all had that freedom in the movie, all the actors, even the.
All I ever said to you was, we'd do the rehearsals, and if you come up with an ad lib that makes me laugh, it's in. And that was that. It was that simple. Because I was laughing at everything.
Well, the Spiro Agnew reference.
How was getting Zachary?
Always felt guilty for that, because even though, I don't know, I just thought, I wanted the film to say, and the voice of Zachary, but we couldn't. So I thought, well, I'm going to write a part from Frankenhooker. just to make up for not getting the credit in the last one. And furthermore, I'm going to actually put him in the film as Zachary, with his own makeup and everything. And that's how that worked.
I wanted to ask a question about this movie. It may not have been, I'm totally off, but was Paul Morrissey's Frankenstein on your mind at all when you were thinking about this?
No.
The imagery...
Brain That Wouldn't Die was.
Yeah, The Brain That Wouldn't Die?
Yeah. That was my... to this day, I love that film. It's just a real mess of madness, and it's just great. And we shot Frankenhooker back-to-back with Basket Case 2, and I got Jason Evers in Basket Case 2, and we made the Pinhead look like the Pinhead from Brain That Wouldn't Die. But one of the happiest memories I ever had was meeting Joe Green, the director, showing him. And at first, he seemed to be, I think he thought I had ripped it off and made a remake, because it made some comments. And he just loved it. He just was howling from beginning to end. I mean, he just absolutely loved the film. So, perfect.
So you grew up, of course, on 42nd Street. That's where you got a bulk of your film education, although you went to movies everywhere and spent all your time at the movies. Now, Basket Case 2 and Frankenhooker were catching just the very tail end of independent movies getting to play theatrically as they did. What was it like at that time with video taking over and seeing that your films wouldn't be playing as much as the original Basket Case was?
Well, Frankenhooker got a midnight release and did well, but the important thing back then, it was obvious that a film getting a theatrical play date was just for the video sales. That's really you didn't make money on a theatrical release, so the theatrical releases were very short and brief. But I was always thrilled seeing one of my films in the theater. I didn't actually sit through them. I would walk in and see it on a big screen. Bleecker Street Cinema. In fact, it was the last film to play at the Bleecker Street Cinema. And I remember being there one night, and I was walking past it, and everybody was showing up, and it was a nice, healthy line. And I looked and I went, "Oh my God, there's Penn Jillette. That's great." And I said, "Look at my friend." And my friend turned to me and goes, "Oh dear God." He goes, "Do you see who's at the head of the line?" And it was Dario Argento. And I was so intimidated I had to leave. I couldn't even stand there watching it. And about a year later, I actually I asked if I could meet Dario separately because I just wanted to bow and genuflect in front of him. And he walks into the room, and before I could open my mouth, he goes, "Oh, Frankenhooker's beautiful! Oh, Frankenhooker's beautiful!"
That's a terrific story. Patty, what's your... Patty?
Yes.
Down there.
Yes.
I am invisible. What's your fondest or strongest memory of working on the movie?
I've heard that question before, and there's so many that I really can't pick one individual incident that really sticks in my head. Oh, that was my favorite, and the whole project from the beginning to the end it was such a trip. It was such a great thing to be a part of. There was so many characters working on that movie, right? We had Gabe, we had hooker parts everywhere, legs, feet, arms, hands. It was just a really great thing to be a part of, really.
Very few people understood what we were making. The crew didn't. They thought this was just some TNA piece of shit, and they really were not supportive at all. And we do a take. I remember vividly James doing the scene with the bowling ball goes flying off the table or something, and I think it was right, the build up to the gotta do the drill scene. And when I yelled cut, I was just laughing. I can't laugh during the take. And I'm just laughing so much, and I remember looking up, and I could see crew members avoiding my eyes because they're thinking, this asshole thinks it's funny? You know? One of the actresses, I don't want to mention her name, but Charlotte Helmkamp, hated the film so much. There's videotape of her, a little tipsy, no, drunk, and in a car and going, this is the worst thing I've ever done. This is the biggest piece of shit. And then she goes to see the premiere at the New Art in LA with Jennifer Delora. And yeah, really? She calls me the next day and said, you know, Frank, I was totally wrong about this film. I didn't let on that I already knew that. She said, I didn't know, I didn't think anything of it. She goes, I am so proud. Audience, it was so fun, oh my God. And I don't really understand the disconnect. But I'm the only one who was laughing when we made the thing. Everybody else seemed to be, you know, miserable about it. Everybody kept saying, well, hopefully Basket Case 2 will be better. Who even remembers that one?
James, do you have a memory that was strange, fun?
No memories. You know, yeah, I just want to say one thing. I was at the screening for the New Art in California because I had just moved out there. And it was the first time I saw the movie really with an audience. I did see it at Bleecker Street, but I purposely went in incognito. I sat in the back. I had a 6-pack of Schaefer. I'll never forget that. Schaefer beer. And a friend of mine, we were drinking beers, and they will. Charlotte was there, and they gave her flowers. Well, she had something arranged, and it was, you know, and they had this whole thing, and you know, I didn't want to be. I just wanted to be in the audience, and I just wanted to watch it, and then I realized like what this really was, and like you talk about why the crew didn't laugh. And I had the same experience because when I went in to meet with Frank, they said, we'd like you to play the part. And I said, look, I don't understand this drill. I don't understand what is it. He goes, no, it'll be great. You don't understand. And I didn't.
No, you know, neither did Bob Martin. And when we were writing it, and nobody, and I just, to me, it was so self-evident. And I thought, no, you know, I mean, and it's one of the best things in the film now, but
well, that's what I was getting at, is the fact that I trusted what he was talking about, and I let it go. Now, 25 years later, you know, we're all here looking at this special film, and there's a reason why we're all here and why it's lasted this long, because there's more to it than that. There was something going on, and I'm lucky to have, like, at least said, all right, you know, you have to have trust with somebody. Like, you know, I didn't know that it was going to be that, you know, irreverent, you know, of drilling your head for pleasure. You know, it's release, yes.
And you know, I never knew what. You always said a line that made me laugh, but you only told me what it meant. 2 years ago? It was Goodnight 22.
Oh, that was my grandmother. She used to play bingo all the time. And bingo, at the last game, they have these little catchphrases, you know. And then when you're calling the last 22, they say, good night, 22, quack, quack, because they look like two ducks. But, well, I was going to quack. No. But at least I got a bingo reference in without anybody knowing it, until this day.
Well, it's almost 3:30. Frank Henenlotter fans have a lot to look forward to right now. You have at least 3 projects coming up. You want to briefly talk about what you have in the hopper?
Well, I just finished a film called The Art Thieves. I just finished a film called Chasing Banks. I shot it as The Art Thieves, so I'm not used to, and that's getting more premieres. I don't kill anybody in it, not a drop of blood. So, you know, it's a very different film, okay? And then we're filming a documentary right now about Mike Diana, I hope many of you know who he is, but he's an incredible underground artist. And he's also, but we're doing the documentary on this, he's the only comic book artist ever convicted of obscenity in the United States, which happened in 1994 in Florida, of course. And
Ellis County.
in Ellis County.
Took his pencils away.
Yeah,
Jail.
yeah. And in fact, we have a great quote from the district attorney who wanted to jail him. Imagine getting 3 years in jail for throwing a dirty picture. That's even a student. It was pornographic toy. I mean, jail? I mean, seriously. And we have a great clip of him on the news. Does not have to accept what's acceptable in the bathhouses of San Francisco. And we interviewed him already, and I even said to him, hey, guess what? Crack alleys in New York. You know, and he went, all right. And then next year, hopefully in November, we're back to making another horror film with tons of monsters and goo and blood.
You have advanced copies at your table of?
Oh yeah, a documentary called That's Sexploitation, which is a history of sexploitation movies. And that early next year, Severance. It's 16 minutes of making. I mean, what do you want in a motion picture? It's a great big preview. Dave is the actor.
Time is up. Thank you so much for coming. Thank these guys.